welcome everyone. We are here day 2 of our Becoming Your Highest Self Bootcamp. Welcome back if you're joining us live or if you are watching the replay. We're very excited to have you here. Day 1 was great, minus some technical difficulties, but here we are back again for some more fun. The workbook this week is going to be really essential for you guys to tap into and really work through. Hi, Christina. Good to see you. So in the beginning, yesterday we ended with doing the Circle of Life exercise. So let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. We'll get right into it. Let's see here. All right. Oh, 1 second. All right, so the Circle of Life exercise is one that I want to go a little deeper with on today. And the reason is because I'm gonna go ahead and admit people here. Hold on 1 second, let me share my screen. Okay. Keith, you should be co-host, so let me know if you have any issues. Just message me if you do, and I can keep letting you in. Okay. So, so yeah, the Art of Becoming Your Highest Self, day 2. We are, where I wanted to start actually is just with the quote that is so near and dear to my heart. It's the one by Bill Gove where, he said, and I heard, Bob and Sandy actually a couple different points in the, throughout my training with them is that, if I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me you think I should be, not the me my husband or wife or partner, kids think I should be. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. And so I better know who me is. And that's like, take a screenshot of this or write it down. You can also look it up, watch the replay. It's one that you really want to keep asking yourself over and over again. We're going to do like a quick little recap on self-image as well. But the reason why I wanted to circle back to this is because this circle of life, right? The primary foods that we take in versus which make up our entire life versus the secondary foods which we consume. So I had a couple people reach out to me afterwards about this, this circle of life and how they've used it in businesses and corporations and training their teams to really keep people in check around, what is going to create freedom for them, right? And so think about it, like if I want to be free, I've got to be me. And so I've got to know who me is. So it all comes back to you, it comes back to ourselves, it comes back to really knowing who we are, where we want to go, and the kind of life that we want to create. So I find, in my coaching, in my own, as, being coached, as well as, in my coaching programs now, that a lot of people, like if there is a lack or a scarcity mindset around finances or education, physical activity, which is what you see down here, what the programming is that we tend to look away from it. Okay, we tend to want to avoid and hide from it, but that's not going to create freedom. It will not at all. All it will do is continue to reinforce the lack and limitation and this scarcity, mindset. And again, remember, like when you have scarcity in the heart, you're not going to be able to create abundance. It's just not going to happen. So that's why this exercise is so important. I really encourage you to print the workbook, go back and do it. We'll kind of touch on it a little bit every day to go a little bit deeper with it. All right. And then one thing I did not point out yesterday is that on pages 4 and 5 and 6 of the workbook is the exercise to go through to help you create your power life script, right? I put more of a description in the comments in the Facebook group of how to create it. But these 6-step self-image formula will help you in writing it, okay? Because it's not something that you get through and you're done with it. You want to keep iterating on it and adding to it, building on it, especially as you go deeper into your wants and your goals, and deeper into your imagination, right? Like, who is it that you want to become? What do you want to create at every different level of goal setting? Okay, so that will help you a lot on that. So then, just to recap a little bit on the self-image, right? So we have Dr. Maxwell Maltz, psychocybernetics, discovered back in the 60s that we have these two different images, right? We have our inner self-image, the perception of who we are, how we're programmed, and it's deep in the recesses of our subconscious. And there's a perception of what we are, who we are, what we're worth. And this inner image, the inner self-image, is the control mechanism that determines what comes into your life and how well you will do. All right. Then the outer self-image is what we project to the world, right? It's the outer expression of an inner image. And the thing is that oftentimes the two don't match, right? Who are we pretending to be? Are we really who we say we are? Or are we really in alignment with what we're telling and portraying to the outside world versus like what's really going on in the inside, right? And the reason why this is so important is because again, your self-image is a direct reflection of what you draw into your life. Hands down, it is a direct reflection. So if you have a negative image, or you're going to get negative results. If you have a positive image, a strong, powerful winner's image, you're going to get positive results. And so that's why going to the self-image is so important. So that's why we started with it yesterday, and we're going just a little deeper with it, and then we'll shift over to the programming. But so that's why you want to, even after you have written your new self-image out and you feel really good about it, it's something that you're going to continue to work on literally every day. Okay. Because because like I said, we're often not aware of the image that we hold of ourselves. And this image, again, influences every area of your life. So think about it like this. It influences the way that we live, the way that we love. It influences our health, our dreams, what it is that we want to create. So are you holding yourself back? Like, in what areas are you potentially holding yourself back because you may have a smaller or lesser than self-image of the person you're saying that you want to become at having achieved your C-type goal? So, and again, this was just to recap from yesterday, that Dr. Maxwell Maltz said that the self-image sets the boundary for our performance and our achievement, right? And we act, behave, and feel according to what we consider our self-image to be, and we don't deviate from that pattern. It's just, it doesn't have, it works like that control mechanism, like we talked about in terms of the thermostat in your house, or a plane on autopilot veering off course. And this is why, if your results are kind of all over the place in any area, you really need to go to that image, that self-image. Okay, so we act and feel in accordance to what we imagine to be true about ourselves. And so this is where, we paused yesterday, right? What do you believe about yourself? Right? How do you feel about yourself? What do you think about yourself? And this is a question that I often ask. I still ask it all the time. Like, what do I believe to be true about myself? And you want to ask, like, what are the beliefs that I have, that you have, that are causing the behavior that you are demonstrating in your life, that are creating your results? Right? And there's no, this is always coming from a place of non-judgment. You just be very neutral with yourself. And, I remember, like, when I had already left corporate and had, started my coaching business, and my results were all over the place. They really were. Like, I took off like a rocket right away in my business. And then, And then the results kind of caught up with me, because here's the thing, your self-image will always find you. All right, it will always find you. And so that's why being very honest and neutral, no judgment, you don't want to come from a place of judgment with yourself. But that's why these questions and doing this work is so essential. And what I realized in my own experience is that, the image didn't match the person that I was saying that I was on the outside. That inner image, I had a very small image of myself, a very limiting, image, and it centered around a lot of different things, but experiences in my life. But that's why this work is so important. Okay. So that was just a quick recap on yesterday, but where I want to go, really take the conversation and the training today is around our programming. Okay, so it's around what we call our paradigms. So paradigm, right? Like we have an idea of what this word means, but if you equate it to the program, like the mental program that your mind, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind is running on, that's where you can equate it to that, just to a straight, like a computer program, right? Someone has to go in and program a computer, right? It doesn't just happen. Well, that's what happens with us. That is exactly the way that we are programmed. And it happens first through our genetics, how, our family history. And then it happens once we're born, right? And we go through our life and we get this programming, and it ends up having almost exclusive control over our behavior, all of our habitual behavior. And when you think about it, almost all of our behavior is habitual. Okay, so think about like when you get up in the morning, I love this analogy, and I got it from Dr. Joe Dispenza. But when you wake up in the morning, a lot of people, if you think about the actions that you take in the morning. So a lot of people will grab their phone first thing because the alarm may or may not wake them up. You grab your phone, sometimes before you even get out of bed, right? You start scrolling, checking your emails, your texts, your social media, whatever it is, whatever your go-to is. And now you're taking in all this information. You have this environment that you've created intentionally, and you're taking in all this information before you even get out of bed in the morning, usually. And then you get up and you probably, I don't know, go to the bathroom, take a shower, make some coffee, and you just sort of kind of go about your life like that, right? And you maybe go to work, you take care of the kids, and then the day is over. For me, it's dinner and homework and bedtime, and then, that's the end of the day. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing, like if you want to get different results, okay, you have to understand how you're currently programmed. So what we have to do then is we have to alter that programming, right? Because remember, again, going back, all of our results are a direct reflection of what's going on inside of us. So until we change the inside, the outside, it just won't change, okay? So another way to look at this is, what are our paradigms? Again, there are a multitude of habits, really of other people's habits, passed on from one generation to the next. And the thing about it is that there's only two ways to change your programming. There are only two ways that I know that I've been trained to change the paradigm. Okay, and the first is through, time-spaced repetition, studying the material. Repetition is key with it, coaching, any sort of coaching program you can get involved in. And then the second is through an emotional impact. Right? And emotional impacts are usually not positive. They can be, they're usually not. And so the reason why that's important is because you don't want to wait for an emotional impact to happen before you try to change your programming, because then emotional impacts, usually even the positive ones, can, steer you in a completely different direction. Right? If you think like a positive example would be, having your first child, right? It completely changes your life. And it's very easy to kind of lose control over, the thoughts that you think, which lead to your results, which ultimately lead to the life that you're living and the relationships and your health. And so that's one example. Another example, for sure, a more recent example of a negative one would be, is definitely the pandemic. 9/11 was an emotional impact. That's one that, I personally have ties to and went through. And for years later, like, I reeled out, in this new program of not really dealing with, the emotional impact and the trauma, because I didn't know how to. I didn't have the tools. And the same thing is definitely going on now with the pandemic. And so I bring that up because it's just really important to understand how strong the paradigm is, right? We talk a lot about it. I mean, it's really one of the primary things, goal setting, self-image paradigms that I work with my clients on. Because the thing about paradigms too is that, when you're doing really well, like you're getting really great results, let's say, it's very sneaky. That's when the paradigm comes in. Okay. And it tries to trick you, right? It's like a con man. And so that's why it's so important to understand, right? The paradigm, just like you learned anything, you learned how to speak, you learned your name, you weren't told your name once and then you remembered it forever. It's the repetition of it, right? Riding a bike, driving a car, it's the repetition of it that you learned over and over again that created that result. And it's the same thing for the paradigm, okay? So this is this next slide. It's so simple. It's an illustration, obviously, but I want to take you through it because this is how it works. Okay, so the paradigm resides in a portion of sorry about the off-centering here a little bit. We'll get that fixed for tomorrow. But so if you think about your mind, okay, and if I were to ask, most of you, what does your mind look like? A lot of people would say, it looks like my brain, or I don't know, there's no picture. And the thing is that the mind is not actually the brain, it's not the head, but the mind is in every cell of the body. Okay. But because we as humans operate in pictures, right? If you guys all like close your eyes right now, if I said to you, what does your refrigerator door look like? Immediately a picture of your refrigerator door flashes on the screen of your mind, right? Does it open left to right? Is it, in the middle? Where's the freezer? Is it on the bottom? Is it on the top? And so you immediately get a picture, right? And so then if I were to ask you, like, go to your car, like, what does your car look like? What color is it? 2-door, 4-door? And so immediately, like, your mind goes right to your car, right? You went there in your mind. So and this happens with everything, right? And so because we think in pictures, it's important to understand, to have a picture of what our mind looks like. So for the sake of this lesson, we're going to say that the mind is at the top, right? Is in the head, and we're drawing a line between right down the center. Okay, we have the conscious mind at the top, and then the subconscious mind at the bottom, and the body underneath. Right, the body is the instrument of the mind, and it carries out in the form of our results, the result that we're getting. Okay, so here is what's really important to understand the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Because the paradigm is formed, it comes in through the conscious mind, through what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, comes in through the conscious mind, and then it gets implanted and suppressed into the subconscious mind. And this is why it's important to understand this. So the conscious mind is our thinking mind, right? It's the educated mind where we're taking in this information, and it's the intellect, right? The subconscious mind is the emotional mind. It's the heart center. It controls, again, 96 to 98% of all of our results our perceptions and our behaviors. Okay, so back to the conscious mind. The conscious mind has the ability to choose the thoughts that it thinks, what it takes in. It has the ability to accept or reject any of those thoughts, and it has the ability to originate a thought. Whereas the subconscious mind is completely different. It must accept what is impressed upon it. It cannot reject. And this is what is I want you to really think about. Like, it doesn't have the ability to determine what is real and what is imagined. Okay, so just to go a little deeper with this, right? So we have our five senses, right? What we see, what we hear, smell, taste, and touch. And most of us have been programmed to live from our five senses. Now, where we really start to change our thinking, really start to think for ourselves, is when we know how to originate thoughts using our higher mental faculties. Okay, and we're going to go deeper with that in a second. But when you think about that, most of us are living from our five senses. So we look at the bank account, we look at, maybe like a relationship, we look at the scale if we want to, lose or gain weight. We look at that and we let the outside control how we feel on the inside. And that's really the reverse way that we should be doing it. We should not be living from the outside in. We need to learn how to live from the inside out. Okay. And again, remember, the subconscious controls 96 to 98% of all of your results, your perceptions, and your behaviors. Okay. So only 2 to 4% of your results come from your conscious mind. So in anything that we want, we first have to rewire the subconscious, again, like we already have it. So, because I promise you, you can have whatever you want, but before you can have it, you first have to become it, right? This is like the art of becoming, right? The art of becoming your highest self. And if you just take, let's use another example. Like if you take a look at your results, like if you take a look at, let's just say your income, and you want to take your income to another level. Let's say you have a financial goal. Okay. And let's say like, you're earning, I don't know, 5,000, a month US. You're earning that not because that's what you're worth, right? You're earning that only because that's what you've given your subconscious in terms of programming. Okay, that's what you know how to earn. And so your subconscious, it doesn't understand that. And so that's just what you've given it because of the results, because of your current level of conscious awareness. And remember, everything in life is conscious awareness. So in anything we want, we have to rewire the subconscious in order to get different results. Okay, so moving on to the higher mental faculties. This is one of my absolute favorite things to talk about. So Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. It's so simple, right? But if you think about, like, if you going back to the income, like if you want to take your income to another level, you have to change your thinking. You have to change the way you think. That's it. That's where it starts. It's not, it's not the job that you have. It's not waiting on that next promotion or that next title. It's not, let's say it's a relationship goal. It's not waiting for the right person to come along and just like hope and wish. You want to create that from the inside out. Okay, you have to change the way you think if you want to get different results. It's as simple as that. So getting into our higher mental faculties. So I love these. So we have our imagination, we have our will, we have our intuition, we have our perception, we have our memory, and we have our reason. So this is where it gets a little tricky, right? We all know, we'll probably agree that we have an imagination. Like, you know that you can go in and create your day tomorrow using your imagination. Like, okay, what do I want to do tomorrow? I'm using my imagination to say, like, okay, I want to, maybe go to a yoga class. I'm going to, go to the grocery store. I'm going to go hang out with friends, whatever it is. That's a very simple form of using your imagination. So you know that you have it, but this is not something that you can see. Right. And so we all know that we have a will. I'm sure all of us have tried to will things into existence before, using your willpower. Your intuition, like the intuition is not, again, these are not things that are tangible, which is why this is not anything that is taught in school for sure. But is taught in this mindset, material that I've just fallen in love with. And so it's because it's the intangible, because it doesn't happen through your five senses, right? And remember, like, our five senses are there, they're important, but they're there to keep us safe, right? They're there to keep us comfortable. And so if we want growth, like, no growth exists inside your comfort zone. It just doesn't happen. And so if you want to create, if you want to be the creator of your reality, of your world, which we're always all creating. So what are you creating from the outside in, or are you creating from the inside out? Okay, so our imagination, right, creates fantasies, creates, like, we get this picture on the screen of the mind. Like, go in your imagination and start creating. We touched on it a little bit yesterday with writing out your self-image script. Like, you used your imagination. Where do you want to see yourself a year from now? What does that look like? Okay. And I have a lot of times I'll have clients ask me, like, well, how often do I have to use my imagination? And that's where mindset training comes in, because I'll be honest, like, I live in my imagination now pretty much the entire day. But you don't get there overnight. It comes through this mental endurance. It comes from this, building up this mental muscle of learning how to use your higher mental faculties. So in this order, this is the order that Bob gave them to me in, and I love this. So, like, first you go into your imagination to create what it is that you want. Then you use your will to hold it on the screen of your mind as long as you possibly can. Okay. And, we're all human. Like, there will be days, there will be moments where you're not in that alignment of where you're going. And that's okay. But you have the tools, and that's what this week is all about, is giving you the tools and helping you develop them so that you can take back that control, right? And live from the inside out. All right, so then we hold it on the screen of our mind with our will, and then we start using our intuition. Like, what does it feel like? Like, you start, when you're intuitive, and we're all intuitive, when you start to really pick up on vibrations, right? The universal law of vibration, which is the first law, the primary law to the law of attraction. And that's the one thing, The Secret, the movie The Secret, it was all about law of attraction. But what it didn't cover was the first law of vibration, like the frequency that you're on and that you're picking up, like learning to really listen with your feeling and your emotion. Like, what does it feel like? Right. And when you're in alignment with your higher self, when you're constantly following that intuition, you're constantly following that feeling. And then throughout our day, we use our perception, what's our point of view towards, whatever it is that we're working on. Like, and how do you shift your perception in order to think differently, to create different results? Okay, then we have our memory. And there's no such thing as a bad memory. There may be weaker memories and stronger memories, but there are so many tricks to work on your memory. And it's such a beautiful gift to have that memory, because we can create from that what we want, or, what we no longer want. And then we have our reason, right? Our intuitive factor is one of our higher highest faculties is the ability to reason, right? It gives us that ability to think. We get to choose the thoughts that we think. Okay, so what are you choosing? So another way to look at this, going back to the stick person, so to tap into our higher mental faculties, like this is how, when we go about our day, this is how information comes into our conscious mind and our subconscious, right? So this is where we have a choice. We can either react to our environment, right? What we see on TV, what we are following on social media, to anyone that comes into our life. We can either react or we can respond. And there's two totally different things. When we react, we're giving away our power. So when I say react, like that's really over here, operating through, ignorance and misunderstanding. But when you respond and you learn to, by developing your mindset and by developing our higher mental faculties, you pull from the knowledge that you're gaining. So when we learn to respond versus react, so when we react, we give away our power, right? But when we respond, we stay in our power. And when we're in our power, you guys, like we are in our greatness. Like that is alignment. That's where we're meant to live. So how that could look potentially, right, is we take in, through our senses, right, into our conscious mind, any sort of worry, doubt, negative thinking. And here's the thing too, is that you may not even know, like, yes, the conscious mind has the ability to choose, but your subconscious mind is still open. So who you surround yourself with, your environment, and I will always say this, like your environment is your destiny. The people you surround yourself with, the information you're taking in, you're allowing to take in, you get to choose that. Right. But that is ultimately going to affect your results. So if you're taking in any sort of worry, doubt, negative thinking, what that does in the subconscious is it turns into fear. Okay. And fear it's a scary place. And then in the body, that comes out in the form, we can't even really help. Like it's a lot of times there'll be like this build up and build up and build up. And we have so much fear in the subconscious that in the body, it turns into anxiety, procrastination, depression, and eventually being in a state of dis-ease or disease. Right? I mean, in my past, like I've definitely was prone to anxiety and panic attacks after, a few emotional impacts. And that is a horrible place to live. And most people don't know how they got there. Right? And then we're not taught this. We're not taught that we have this ability. But what this does on the flip side is that when we have the understanding, okay, through study, and it's not just positive thinking, but that is it. But through study and understanding, that's what leads to being in our power and more positive thinking, more, thinking that is more in alignment with our highest self. So what that then does in the subconscious is it produces faith. Okay. And, Bob always used to say that, faith and fear both require you to believe in something you cannot see. So you choose. Okay. This is where we take back control, like we take back our power and we're able to live in faith versus fear. Okay. And then in the body, that comes out in the form of well-being, calmness, acceleration, like we move into action towards our goals. And then we live more often than not in this state of being at ease. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, you're still like, it is normal. Like if you are not experiencing fear, you're not stretching yourself far enough. So there's this weird kind of contradictory thing that goes on in mindset coaching and training and, any sort of manifestation coaching, that it's like, you have to go somewhere in yourself first. That's going to be a little scary. That's going to create this growth within you. And then once you have the understanding, though, that you can convert the fear into faith to continue creating your results, and we're going to get into this a little bit more on day 4, in how to do that, it's everything. I promise you. All right. So just some key points. I'm not going to read this whole slide, but before we get into the assignment for today, so again, just to summarize the higher mental faculties, again, perception, will, imagination, memory, reason, and intuition. And it is our responsibility. Nobody can do this for you. How to utilize and develop these higher faculties. All right. Like if I could do the work for my clients, I would do it, I swear. But like you have to pull from within. And the first step in that is creating an image that's in harmony with the person that you want to become at having achieved your high level, or what we call C-type goals. And we're going to get into more goal setting tomorrow. But, and again, second point here is like, we are all programmed just from the way culture, society, more often than not, programmed to live from the inside out. I'm sorry, the outside in versus the inside out. And when that happens, we're just kind of, we're this plaything for outside forces, right? We're just constantly reacting to what's going on outside of us. And so point 3 here is that we should observe and be aware of what is going on. Like, you can't ignore the outside. I'm not saying to ignore it, right? There's so much going on in our world today. I'm definitely not saying to ignore it, but just know that we are still capable of creating our world with these higher faculties. We don't have to accept current conditions and circumstances. Just stay in control of what you can control. Okay, don't get lost in the sea of things that are not within your control. Okay. And objectively observe what is going on in the outside world, but again, don't let it control your thinking. Think thoughts that will create the idea of what you want. And listen, it's as simple as this. Like, it could be seriously as simple as this. And I've used this example before, but I remember right after the first lockdown, my nail salon opened up, and I was so excited to go. And it was probably, I don't know, many weeks after, but I remember sitting there in the salon, and there was a woman next to me who was just complaining, because she didn't like the way decisions were being made at her school. She was a teacher, and listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I didn't want to let that into my subconscious. All right, I don't want to let it in. And so, I put my earbuds in, and I chose not to let that in. And so you have that choice, right? And so the fourth point, at that point, like, you consciously observe a new result, like you mentally adapt to the new results that you're creating. Because again, how is that making you feel? Like, when you let the outside in, like, how does that make you feel? And you'll always know, what is going on the inside by your results. And so I encourage you to stay in charge of you and don't let the outside world control you. Okay, you control your outside world. So that is essentially the lesson that I had for you today. The assignment for day 2 is it's so simple. Keith and I were talking about it before, actually, because we did it during the last boot camp. But this work is never over. Like, as soon as you set a new goal, as soon as you create a new image for yourself, the process starts all over again. And so what I want you guys to do is, in the workbook, right after you get through the self-image exercise, on page 7, there's an exercise where it talks you through, like, what I want you to do is write out any habits or limiting beliefs that are a part of your paradigm, that you feel you might need to get rid of. And when you're really honest with yourself and you really go within, you're going to know, right? You're going to know what those are. Most of us know if we're really being honest with ourselves. So, like, think of a situation where you're not getting the results that you want. And then, describe that situation. And in that, you'll be able to pull out these habits and these limiting beliefs. And then what I want you to do is safely burn them. Honestly, every time I set a new goal, I go through this process, like I said. So it's not like, the burning of them, or you can use other elements as well. You can use water. I burn mine in my sink, and then I like make sure to flush it down the garbage disposal. But, use other elements, go outside if you can, but get them out, right? Are they going to be gone forever? No, but it's symbolic of you doing the work and being serious that you're letting go of those past limiting beliefs. Okay. And then post them in the group. All right. Post your pictures in the group of doing the assignment. And we'll put this assignment, actually, I think it's already up in the group, and then the replay from today. I highly encourage, like, the repetition of this material is the tipping point. Studying the same thing, listening to the same thing, getting, coaching, mentorship, like everything that I do with my clients it centers around repetition. Because again, that's how you learn a new belief. That's how you change that paradigm. And I often hear people say that they are like working on their paradigm, like, oh, I've identified, I don't know, it could be anything, right? So it could be like self-sabotaging things that you do or actions that you take if you, let's say, want to get to a health goal. If you have a certain health goal, fitness goal, and but yet you find yourself never going to the gym or never getting up early to go to the gym. Like that's a limiting action. That is a habit that you formed of not doing the same thing, day after day or week after week, whatever that is for you. And you guys know, like, again, when you're really honest with yourself. And so that's why going back to the recording and watching it again, is really, really essential with this material and this training. The replays will be up until Monday, this coming Monday, at midnight Eastern time. I don't think I mentioned that yesterday. So that'll be Monday, May 23rd. The replays will be up. So you have time. Don't delay though. Don't try to cram it in all at once. That's definitely a paradigm that I'm working to correct right now. And then lastly, I wanted to announce, and then I'll hand it over to Keith. I don't know if he's on, but I wanted to announce, I'm going to stop my share, that we are announcing a new program. So in the coaching that I have, we do mindset coaching with, and I do that through one-on-one clients. And that's very limited. I only take on a certain amount of clients every 6 months, just because I spend a lot of time there. And then I have group coaching with Thinking into Results, the first program I did. I love it. And then third, we're going to be launching next Tuesday. There'll be more to come out and be posted in the Facebook group and on Instagram. It's just called Study With Me. So it's going to be a Tuesday and Thursday morning, hour long, from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern time. So it's 6 a.m. for me, but 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern time, where we're going to be studying God Works Through Faith. And so if you're interested, please reach out to me and just send me a DM or an email if you have my email. There is a little bit of just kind of like a qualifying process. I want to make sure that, the material will really, really resonate with you. And there is an offer if you join, before midnight on Monday for that as well. We've got a couple of different offers going on this week. So Keith, I'll hand it over to you. If you're good, do you want to jump in and kind of wrap anything up in the last few minutes?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Haley. Thank you for such a lovely program today. I think there's so much to unpack, but I really want to just go to the assignments, because it's very important that we do these assignments on a daily basis. I think today's assignment is very much connected to what we did yesterday in terms of our self-image, right? Unpacking what our self-image is and the person that essentially we want to become in the present tense. I think, when you spoke about this idea that the conscious mind accepts everything that it's, or rather, the conscious mind has the ability to choose, right? Whereas the subconscious mind essentially accepts everything that is impressed upon it. I think it's very much, what I want to encourage you guys to do today is that to use that faith or to use that imagination when you actually write down those limiting beliefs in order to turn them, from fear to faith. So anything that's holding you back, write it down, use that imagination, and just give that visual instruction to your subconscious mind to essentially let those limiting beliefs go. And I think, it's such an important step in the process of essentially becoming the person that you want to be. And that's something that we spoke very greatly about yesterday. This idea of just clearing the space and just releasing all these things that are holding you in the same space that you are right now, right? Because what we essentially want to do is to leapfrog ourselves and quantum leap to that person that we want to become at a much faster rate. So just I want to impress upon you to just use your imagination today. Take all those limiting beliefs, write them all down. Of course, don't judge them, right? We want to really observe rather than judge. Those are two different energies. When we judge, we essentially just we put ourselves in the situation where we're just like, this is the person I am, but we really just want to observe and just use our imagination to clear that space and let them go. So again, when it is symbolic, like Haley said, when you actually burn or you use the water elements to actually destroy it, that's a symbolic thing. But again, it's that visual instruction that we're giving to our subconscious mind to be able to release and let these limiting beliefs go. So that's the assignment for today. And I think it's such a simple one, but it's a very important one. And when you get time in your journey, as you start to grow, you can do this exercise over and over again. So yeah, that's the exercise for today, and looking forward for day 3 tomorrow. Are there any questions, by the way, in the group? If anybody has questions, guys, please raise them now. Let's chat about it.